Do 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 do. Hi everybody. Uh-oh, my mic might be on. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello. My mic working? Doesn't seem like it is. Hi everybody. For some reason my microphone doesn't want to work. Can you hear me, C Kim? Because I'm not picking anything up on the audio portion here. All right, good. Hi everybody. So we're going to have some people slowly coming in here. Get myself a little bit adjusted. Figured I'd do a Sunday night chat. I got some topics I wanted to talk about. Some interesting things, recently with red dots. You saw some of the topics I brought up. Red dots, the aluminum lower from Icarus Precision, and, just range time in general. Those are some of the things that I want to talk about. So I actually have somebody who's going to join us here in a minute, who I would consider kind of an expert in shooting, much better than me, obviously, which doesn't take much, by the way. But we'll start slow. We'll wait for this person to join us, and then hopefully we get this show on the road. Somebody's at my house, as you can hear my little Ring camera phone thingy is going off. But anyway, so let's start slow. I'll do a roll call here. Currently, we have 15 people watching. Again, always do these, as you know, I shouldn't say always, but I try to get these done a little bit at a time, trying to get everybody in, just kind of make people, I don't know, talk about other things than on the normal chat night. So let's do a little roll call here. So I've got Double X, I've got Scott79, C Kim, Nick Knox, Anthony Lamastro, Keenan, my man, Finna Watt. Let's see who else. Bagger Bro. So yeah, thanks, man. I had a great Christmas, actually. It's just been great. I mean, you spend a lot of time with the family, but despite being locked down and all this other crap, I mean, you have to take what you can in regards to the good news, and the good side of Christmas was just kind of just hanging out with the fam. So Peter K, hello, how are you? Hopefully everybody had a good Christmas as well. Ripcord, good to see you as well here. And like I said, we're just kind of starting off slow, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to run this for about an hour, so about 8:34-ish to about probably 9:35-ish or so. And we're just going to, do the best we can with what we're talking about. So let's start slow. Let's talk about range time. And it's kind of an interesting topic because, obviously, I think a lot of people's range time is being kind of, I guess you can say, shortened because of the lack of ammunition. I know myself, I'm having those issues as well because it's just not... you're just not getting a lot of stuff available, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to go shooting anytime you want. However, today I did actually shoot. I went and shot about 300 rounds, and it kind of sucked because you're really pushing the limit of what you have left in the old cabinet behind me there. But you got to go shooting. I mean, you have to try to go out and do what you need to do. Shot a boatload of different guns. And here he is. Let me get him on here for 1 second. Let's see.
What's up?
What's going on, man?
Oh, it's super dark in here. Apparently got to turn a light on. Can you turn a light on for me?
I've just been doing like this massive lighting project. So don't be intimidated by the uniqueness of my background here.
I am extremely intimidated.
It is, especially that purplish blue hue that I got going on. So how are you, sir? How's everything going?
I'm doing really good. I kind of wish I knew how to zoom out a little bit because it's like all up in my face. But
well, that's okay. Your beard is actually camoing in the darkness, so that's actually not bad. You're camoed.
Yeah, I look kind of weird. Yeah. I haven't done a live chat in I don't know how long. It is a really long time.
I figured I'd ask, see if you wanted to join, because I have some questions for you, and being the residential expert, at least in my opinion, in many different realms of firearms.
I don't know about that.
Well, come on, you are. You're much more of an expert than I am. So one of the things that I was starting off the conversation with was about range time in general. I know that you have access to your own personal range, which is always kind of cool. And, what do you like? One of the things that I'm always curious about is, do you feel that when you're shooting, and because you have so much time at your own personal range, that absolutely gives you an advantage to becoming a better shooter overall? So, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say yes. I mean, of any of the best shooters you've ever seen, like Jerry Michalek, all them guys, JJ Rakaza, they all have access to their private range, so they can work on things. But I think you can get really good or even better just by yourself if you do a ton of really diligent dry fire practice. Just the problem is you have to go once a week at least and, vet that practice. That's the real issue is you have to put it on a timer and figure out what you can do, or you have to, keep track of your groups in a book and see what's working better for you. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the biggest thing is just taking it seriously.
Right. Now, would you say on average you're doing much more dry firing than live firing at this point?
Oh yeah, I always have. I drive my wife crazy. I dry fire every single night without fail.
Yeah.
Like she'll go to sleep 2 hours later, here, click, 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 click. She's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Last night we were watching that movie Tenet. I don't know if you've seen that movie yet, but
weirdly, I watched that last night too.
Oh my God. I fell asleep about halfway through it, just so you know, because I got completely confused. I had no idea what the hell was going on. So I just said, fuck it, I'm going to sleep. And, in process of the beginning of the movie, I started shooting everybody on screen dry firing. So my wife's like, what the hell are you doing? And I said, well, I'm practicing, I'm drawing and I'm practicing shooting people randomly on a screen. So I know that might get me banned right now, but it's just a movie. There was no real ammunition or anything being used. But, I think the dry firing part of it is a good concept because I know for me, I just, I'm running out of ammo, to be honest with you. So it's hard to get to the range. I actually went today, put 300 rounds down, but I brought several different firearms that I haven't even shot yet. And then tried to space out the ammunition between the four, it's not a lot, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But I definitely wanted to concentrate on certain ones that I've never shot before versus ones that I've owned before and now just reacquired. But I think the biggest problem that I'm having right now is when you go to the range, you're not necessarily having the ability to do what you want to do, as opposed to being in the backyard or something like that. You got to be very careful with how fast you're shooting sometimes, depending where you're going. And then sometimes you're also having to, really be careful with the people around you. I mean, I hate to say it that way also, because there's a lot of new shooters, especially in New York. We've seen an abundance of new shooters, and you want to be encouraging at the same time, though. You want to be very careful because, the range master today, for example, had 2 young guys shooting shotguns next to me and never shot a gun before. He said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you this really quick. And then he left while these 2 knuckleheads next to me were blasting massive holes through paper. And it kind of led me to a little bit of discomfort, I guess you could say. But I feel like,
I told you way back in the day on the previous chat, the reason why I stopped shooting at public ranges was because I almost got shot by an 8-year-old girl with a 22 when her dad wasn't paying attention.
God,
I mean, I didn't stop going. You obviously go there for matches, but it's closed during that and that kind of thing. But yeah,
that's terrible.
Yeah, it's a real concern, obviously, because you can't watch everybody. It's like you're the best driver in the world, but you get hit by a drunk driver, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. Now, the other thing I started playing around with more now are going to be the red dots. Now, when you're carrying, when you carry your firearm, are you carrying without red dots usually? Or are you just carrying just straight irons?
This has been like the year of the dot for me a little bit. I've been really trying to work myself out of 20 plus years of iron sights and trying to move into the dot. And a lot of that applies, especially if you get the dot lower. If you can, like on my wife's Glock 43, I'm having one milled myself because the dot is actually right above. I mean, it's so low with that Hollow Sun 507 that it's essentially in the iron sight, plane of view. So it works really well. And my Zeb also, which I've been shooting, is so low that it has 1/3 co-witness with the standard iron sights. So I've been working with it a little bit, but my main carry gun is still my iron sight gun because I don't really subscribe to the fact that you need a dot for carry because, I mean, any situation I've ever been in where I've had to draw my gun or any situation I've ever seen anybody, it's not like you're taking pinpoint accuracy at 25 yards,
Right.
Yeah, kind of back to. I wanted to say this before we keep going.
Sure.
The biggest thing as far as like learning how to shoot is what type of shooting are you trying to do? If you're just self-defense shooting, I mean, an indoor range is almost useless to you. You know what I mean? Like, because the biggest thing about a self-defense shooting, in my opinion, is getting the gun out and getting it on target for the first shot. And in most indoor ranges, you can't even practice draws, let alone appendix carry or 3 o'clock, that type of thing, like inside the waistband. If they saw you do that shit, they'd be so mad. And that's like
Yep.
creating space while trying to get the gun out and firing while simultaneously bracing yourself. Like a lot of those self-defense techniques, you just can't do live fire. So you have to work on that dry fire at your house.
I mean, that's a good point. I know for me personally, I can't draw from a holster at the range. The best that I can do is start at a low position and then bring it up real quick and then try to go on from there. But today there was nobody there, amazingly, for the first 25 minutes. And I was tempted, but they've got cameras everywhere, and they're kind of a bunch of old ornery guys that sometimes will give you a hard time and throw you out.
Around, yep.
Yeah,
I get that. But you gotta look at it like them. They have insurance that if they have one incident, they might get dropped, and then they don't have a shooting range anymore.
Sure.
It's the issue with the Blackhawk Park shooting range that I go to a lot. I mean, one incident there, and they're screwed, and the range is closed. So they kind of have to institute those, draconian rules. But what are you going to do?
Makes sense. I know that I went out, I shot a few guns today. I finally got a chance to shoot the Shield 4-inch with the red dot. And, I was texting back and forth with the Humble Marksman because he made some comments about the dot not being so bright and walking a little bit. So I only got 100 rounds through that gun today. And I have to say one thing about the Shield, that it is absolutely, I still think, one of the best single stack or stagger stacks, whatever you want to call it, handguns. It is such a good gun to shoot because even though it's a 4-inch, it's a little bit heavier than obviously the original Shield, but it's such an easy single stack to shoot. Like there's not a lot of recoil. It's just a real solid performing gun. Excuse me. The trigger sucks balls, but other than that, I mean, it's a really nice gun. What's that?
You can fix that.
Yeah, I know. I got to get that. The shoot just does nothing. It does nothing for me with that hinge trigger at all. But I noticed that on the dot, one of the things I would say is that it didn't walk on 100 rounds. Although I'm not an expert, I would say I'm a very poor shooter when it comes to a red dot. But I would say that what I saw was the groups were really tight, although they were a little low to the left, but definitely tighter than normal for me. But I think one of the things that I didn't like about the dot on that particular firearm was it washes out real easy. I think it's supposed to adjust its brightness automatically or whatever, but it does not do a good job. So I'd say that's the biggest downside of the red dot optic that's on there.
Well, that's the biggest downside to all red dot optics. There's not very many optics that will keep up, especially. I have the benefit of having my own range, so I shoot a lot of nighttime shooting, which most people don't do. And when they do it, oftentimes they're indoors. They're in a blacked out warehouse or something like that. If you go through a lot of fading light in different lighting conditions, like if you go from a well lit place to a half lit to a well lit, the dot's not going to be able to keep up. It just doesn't. If I go downstairs and I'm dry firing in the dark a little bit with a weapon light, it's like quarter second later it comes on after the weapon light. You're just going to have to get used to, like close range when it really counts. I mean, just use the dot just like you'd use a red dot with no dot. You know what I mean? Just put him in the optic and pull the trigger and he'll probably go away.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or just show your gun and he'll probably go away.
Well, I mean, that's worked for me. I was down in Kansas City working with a dude named Parker out of like S&S Solutions. And we were doing some like as fast as I can draws. You know what I mean? Like we were trying to get him down below like I think 0.79 was my lowest. But at that point, I was not even looking at the dot. I wasn't getting an iron sight picture or anything like that. I was still at 10 yards and I was making A-zone hits. You just have to get that repetition and you might just kind of do what you want. I think anyway. I mean, I used to be a boxer and I kind of take that philosophy onto everything. And like, as soon as I got in the boxing ring, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but then you just kind of adapt to whatever that other person does. And as soon as you get it in the face a few times, shit goes out the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure does. I know that all too well.
Yeah. So you just train as best you can for situations like that. And then hopefully you did enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. Listen, I remember I used to do Muay Thai actually quite a bit. And I tore my bicep. Oh, I love them. Especially those elbow hot shots are just amazing, But I tore my bicep actually doing that shit. I just got too old. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I can always tell you, man, I remember going up against this one dude. He was like probably 15 years younger than me. And I mean, for every shot I got on him, he must have gotten 7 or 8 of them on my face.
That's fun. Yeah.
Oh man, it was not a good night. So I just was like, this is bullshit. I'm too old for this shit. But I mean, I always recommend getting punched in the face several times, and then you'll know where you stand afterwards, because
Right.
it's not
Condition
easy.
yourself to it, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Kind of
It's not
like
fun.
putting yourself in the fire, and I have a really dangerous job and I've had a lot of dangerous habits, and I feel like
Mhm.
that helps condition your mindset for when things
Sure.
go bad. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. I agree. I agree. So I wanted to just really quickly answer this question here. It's saying, personally, EDC, FN 509, no red dot light or anything. Personally think simple is better. In both of your personal opinions, is a Glock really the go-to for EDC? What do you think about that?
Oh, I think a 509. I mean, I don't distinguish much of a difference between the striker-fired polymer guns. If you gave me an H&K, if you gave me a PPQ, a 509, whatever fits your hand best, whatever features you like. If the gun goes bang when you pull the trigger and you can shoot it accurately, it's the best gun for you, man. I mean,
Mhm.
FNs have a phenomenal track record. People can say shit about water lock and stuff like that, but I mean, I've never seen one. I mean, how many times you fight in a swimming pool? Like, you're gonna be
Yeah,
fine, I think.
that's true.
I mean,
That's
when they
true.
do those gauntlet tests with the water and stuff, like I got a lot of flack about the MPX a while back, but I mean, most people are not going to be pushing that limit. At the most, you're going to be shooting in rain, and it's
Yeah.
going to be fine.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if that the Glock is the end all and be all for everyday carry. I think it's whatever you're comfortable carrying. I mean, right now my everyday is the MR920, just because it is just a great performer. It ergonomically is great, and I love the gun. I mean, I just put an optic on it today, so I'm going to start playing around with that a little bit. So I'm going to have to take that off the carry list right now until I get better. But it's whatever you think is best for you. I mean, if you have a 509, it's a great gun. Why would you change it? And if it works for you and you're a good shooter with it, keep it. Just roll with it. That's what I would recommend.
I should
But,
probably pull up the YouTube video of this so I can see the comments, huh? I sent a bunch of people over here
yeah, you have to do. Yep.
I always get in here and I forget I'm not just talking to you.
That's okay. That's all right.
I'm not a live chat expert, I can promise you that.
Neither am I. I just pretend to be.
I look like I'm in the fucking. I mean, I look like I'm in a cave or something right now.
Yeah, right. I know. I told you your beard is invisible right now. All you see is your forehead. So apparently Harvey Weinstein is having very bad diarrhea. So I'm sorry for that, sir. That really sucks. Let's see. Kathleen Music Lover is asking, is it better to practice at closer range for accuracy than shooting at farther distance? What do you think about that?
I think both work well. I mean, I think the only real way to see if you're good at certain distances is shoot at those distances. You can replicate it by shooting small groups, 3 to 5 yards, but you're going to want to vet that again. You're going to want to find a range where you can do 25 yards and just see how accurate you are. I mean, one of the things that you run into when you shoot in like real world situations is wind and, shit in your way, shit in the foreground, the rear ground, all that kind of stuff, you know? So you're just going to kind of have to, if you think that you're going to experience that, I would just try to find a way to test it out. I mean, I know a lot of people who can shoot really small groups, but I don't know a lot of people who can shoot a 6-inch plate at 100 yards because they just don't practice it very much.
Yeah, that's definitely not me. I mean, for me, I usually start closer and then work my way further, just because
that's what I do.
I usually suck at distance first anyway, so it gives me a little added confidence and a bonus to the ego when I actually feel pretty good shooting, and then I push it back a little bit. But the biggest problem that I have where I shoot in the indoor range is the lighting is just terrible, so it's hard to see it. Like, it really is just hard to see. It's like a cave. So I try to put it out far enough so that it literally sits right underneath a light, so that I can actually see what I'm shooting at. So that's I would say that's the biggest downside, but I always start close, then I work my way out. But I one of the things that I have to ask you is, there are some people, I was watching something, I don't want to name names, but they were talking about shooting across a mall, making a shot, like,
that's ridiculous.
like 300 yards, I think it was, shit like that. And I'm, again, I'm not an expert, just an average guy. But I'd have to say, man, like, if you're taking a shot like that with a handgun, at what point have you completely crossed the line of common sense and reality? I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts about that? What would be the longest shot you would take if you had to defend someone with a handgun?
Well, I guess it all depends on the situation. If you're in a mall, dude, I mean, imagine how many people are going to be running your foreground and your rear ground. Like, how could you calculate all that so quickly? You know what I mean? And 300 yards with a handgun, I don't know if you ever shot that, but you're talking like, talking like 6 to 10 feet, offset. You know what I mean? And you're going to you just pile off a whole magazine at him and hope you hit something. I'm not really sure. Like if there was 4 people in the mall, yeah, maybe. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. If the whole mall was empty, I'd shoot all day long.
yeah, right.
But yeah, I listened to that and I'm like, no way, that's just ridiculous. And maybe not even practical, but listen, to each their own. So let me ask you this. Favorite set of sights, I have to say for me, has boiled down to those damn XS big dots. And the reason why I say, I know, but the reason why I say that is today I shot the Glock 45 and the 19X, right? So Glock 45 has regular 3-dot sights. It's not too bad, but I'm telling you, man, I was just on fire with that stupid XS big dot on the 19X. I find it much easier to shoot with that. I don't know what it is, but once you line up that big giant dot, man, it just everywhere you shoot, it just goes right to it. So it's just an interesting thing that I saw. But what are your thoughts on that, like the big dot itself?
With my relatively young eyes, I like the Dawson Precision thin red fiber optic with a blacked out rear that's serrated. More than anything, I like when the ears of a rear sight are kind of cut inward to kind of push your eye inward. A lot of rear sights do that. Atlas Gunworks is one that comes to mind. Their 2011 sights do that. But it kind of really pushes my eye forward, and that thin fiber optic is really nice to pick up at distance. So that's what I like. And it simulates a red dot for me too. So
that
you're
makes
kind
sense.
of a red dot floating in the air.
I mean, I think for me, the reason why I like it so much is because the rear sight just disappears. Like I don't even, because you want to obviously train yourself to always look at that front post and everything.
Right.
And it sounds great on videos and on paper and everything, but sometimes it gets to be a pain in the ass because you don't want to focus on it, but sometimes you catch yourself focusing on it. And for whatever reason, that big dot, it just pulls right up to the eye and all I see is a giant golf ball. And for whatever reason, it goes right to that, which I thought was interesting today. And it's not anything that I went to really make a mental note of, but I did notice that for me, it just seems for whatever reason, that big dot just shows up the best out of every sight. And it's just
have
weird.
Have you tried a site, Ameriglow Hackathorns? Have you tried those? They're like $50.
Yep.
I like those a lot too. I mean, if I had to pick one sight forever, those would probably be it. Just straight black in the rear, so you don't look at the rear sight at all. And that big orange golf ball. I mean, it does help.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I got the iDot Pros, and it's very similar, obviously, to the big dot, just not as big. And even those, I tend to really feel better shooting with. It just, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not as proficient. Maybe I guess is a way of saying it, and that just makes it a little bit easier. Which may not be a bad thing, but it's probably not a good thing either. But I just thought it was really weird today how everything was just playing out. And
I know a lot of people that use big dots that can shoot pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't like them because, I mean, they seem a little too big for me to be precise. And on top of that, Yeager.
Yeah.
All the time, and I just fucking don't like that guy.
Hey, listen, I have no comment. I mean, whatever, man.
He's some personal interactions with him.
That would be an interesting, fireside chat one day, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up was, so I've been working with Icarus Precision a little bit, and when I say work, I mean loosely, because I don't get paid. I'm just having a lot of fun. I'll be honest with you. And I took the 320X carry out today with the new A script module, their 2.0 or their Gen 2, and I'm going to tell you, man, SIG to me is not the best gun maker out there. They're just not. Like, I think there's some quality control issues. I think a lot of their design is a little bit old fashioned, maybe, I think is a way of saying it, with the high slide and all that other stuff.
Right.
I think obviously the thing that makes SIG just stand out is the modularity of everything, which I think is just an amazing concept. It would be nice to see others follow suit, but that's to be had, I think, in a future date. But let me tell you something, man, that gun today by far was probably the best shooting SIG I've ever owned. There's no recoil, very little recoil at all now that aluminum lower is on there. And more importantly, the way the slide and the frame actually kind of work together, it's like sliding on glass. So the one thing that I found on my end when I was shooting it was I was absolutely shocked about how little recoil there was. And I was actually, shooting a little bit low because I was definitely thinking, oh my God, I'm going to feel a little recoil.
Yep.
And it was nothing, absolutely nothing. It was amazing. The feel of the aluminum compared to a polymer gun, it's night and day, because when you're shooting a polymer gun, sometimes, and maybe you would know this as well, but when you're shooting that gun, sometimes you can actually feel the combustion going off or whatever the hell you want to call it. But, you can feel that in the frame of the gun, but with the aluminum, it's like nothing, like absolutely zero feeling, didn't heat up. It was just a great day for that SIG, man. And I've never had that experience before. And I mean,
I've actually got a little experience with Icarus. I've got one of their lowers currently on my 365. I'm going to do a video on soon.
Yeah.
I fucked up putting it together, and I got the slide release not working. I have to take it apart and put it together, and I keep forgetting to do it. They've messaged me a few times, but I really like their products as well. A lot better texture, and there's something to be said about an aluminum grip for sure. I got the new SIG AXG or something like that, the 320 with the aluminum grip. And it's hilarious. I was going to mention in that video that you could get an Icarus Precision lower and put it on there for way cheaper than getting that. An AXG cost me, I think, $1,200, something like that.
Oh, shit. Holy cow,
so,
man.
Yeah. And then they didn't ship it for like a month, which is why I'm late.
Jesus. Yeah, that's crazy. Because I know even with just the lower, it's like $400, and they're selling their Cerakote for $260 for the X.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, they're coming out with an X compact very soon.
Are they?
Yep. And so hopefully I'll get my hands on that pretty soon here. And that's the one I've been waiting for because, the X compact I found was a little bit snappier than it should be, I think. So I'm hoping that it'll offset that little snap to it. But I've been nothing but pleased, man. It is just, it completely changes the way that gun just works. There's no muzzle flip. It is a quick shooting gun. I'd be really interested to see how you shoot an X carry with that aluminum lower, man, because it's going to be quick. I guarantee you're going to be like blown through it super fast.
I shoot a little fast sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I actually really did like the X series of SIG. I like the X5 a lot. We had some accuracy. I had some accuracy issues with every 320 I've ever shot. It makes me wonder if it's something I'm doing right.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, my favorite SIG of all time, though, no question, is the 226 Legion. I fucking love that gun. It's the only SIG I've ever like, oh my God, I should have bought this. I got it from a patron supporter of mine, Disgruntled Bear. And he sends me a few different guns. I try to get one every couple of months from him because he's got a hell of a collection. But that was like, come on, dude, sell me that. And he wouldn't sell it to me. I shot that gun. I would argue probably the only gun I've ever shot that was as good as a CZ or a 1911.
Wow.
Like I shot it extremely well. I thought anyway. I mean, I was sprinting like, 1-2 inch groups at 25 yards, and then I could shoot it super fast too. So, and that also has an aluminum grip. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
I like the 30-ounce guns, man. I really do. I like the Beretta 92 SIG 226 weight. I used to love the 40s, like the CZ Shadows type of thing, but my old age, I'm liking a little bit less weight.
Yeah, I hear you. I can definitely understand that considerably. So I just want to go through the comments here really quick and see what else is going on.
I'm glad you're keeping track of them. I'm so not. I always
it's easy to like lose it. So somebody asked if there was going to be a discount code when they come out with those compacts. So right now I am currently working with them to try to get you guys something. I'm not sure what it is yet. So I'm hoping it'll be 10% off, maybe be 5%. They've got to let me know. And just so you know, guys, I'm not getting anything kicked back to me at all. There was talks about it. And I said, don't even worry about it. Just if we can give something that people want to buy it, I'm more than happy to just say I'm good with that. Because like I said, it's a company that I believe in, man. They're just really putting out some cool shit. And I want them to get as much notoriety as possible because, you don't see that often where you get these guys coming up with these really cool ideas, and just making things different. So that is in the works. And once it is, I'll let everybody know. Killer Coiler was asking how much difference in the weight. So the lower is like 18 ounces. So I'm not sure what the difference is between that and the polymer. But that's what I was told was the lower was 18. At least I think it was 18. I got to look at my text.
Yeah,
and then,
it's Not much. I can tell you on a 2011, the difference between an aluminum lower and a polymer lower is only like 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces or something. It's not much weight, but it does add a lot of rigidity and good texture.
Yep. That's the difference is the rigidity. It's like like I said, it's like it's like being. I guess the best way to describe how I was feeling when I was shooting it was like you were at some sort of bench rest and you were shooting it like that, even though it was in your hands. I mean, it just didn't move, and it was pretty sweet. It was pretty sweet. So I also noticed on your recent video, your number one, I guess, overlooked, underrated firearm was lever action, sir. So good for you bringing that to the world's attention.
Well, I chose the name Honest Outlaw because it was like an algorithm thing. And I'm a huge Clint Eastwood fan, and I've shot cowboy guns my whole life. My dad was a legit cowboy. He owned horses and had cowboy boots his whole life, the buckle, the hat, the denim fucking Canadian tuxedo, everything. So my first gun I ever got, I keep saying that it's the 22 Henry. It was either that or a 20 gauge H&R shotgun, but I still have them both. And I've been shooting lever actions for longer than I've shot anything else. And I saw a video the other day where somebody was bashing it really hard, and you could tell he didn't know how to use it. He was not racking the lever very, very quickly. He would sometimes not get it into battery when he would pull the lever all the way up. And I was like, you can't be trashing shit you don't know how to use.
That's right. That's shameful. That is absolutely shameful if you cannot use a lever action properly. It's like you said, it's one of the easiest type of actions to use.
I think so. I mean, I train a lot of new people now, and I'll give a lever action 22 to somebody, and they just automatically know how it works. Like as long as you put the rounds in the gun, they know how to rack it, and they know that when the hammer's down, it's safe. That kind of thing. You know what I mean? I mean, not safe, but you get what I mean. It's not going to fire.
Yeah.
And it's just an intuitive design. And God, I get so mad because I don't know a whole lot of guns that have killed more people than lever actions. I mean, so they obviously work. I mean, if you don't believe me, ask the Native Americans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
you don't need to be a dick, but but
it's true. It's absolutely true. Yeah. And more importantly, it is one of the last, I guess you could say, remnants of Americana. You know what I mean? It's something that's a part of the culture of the country, and you just don't see many people favoring those firearms. And I love them. I mean, I've always said my thing is lever actions. There's something about them. Like some people say, well, go for a revolver. To me, the lever action is sort of like the revolver of rifles because it has that nostalgia. It has kind of that, even though it's an older platform, it still has many, many good uses for it, whether it's hunting, self-defense, whatever it might be. But it's such a great platform. I wish more people would really appreciate it.
Well, I think they're coming back hard now, especially with a lot of banned states giving people issues with semi-automatics. I mean, it's not like I would pick a lever action over a semi-auto for a serious situation if I had the choice. But if somebody broke into my house and all I had was a lever action 4570, I mean, that'll put a fucking canoe in somebody. You know what I mean? Like, people argue about scare factor and stuff like that. Well, I want something with scare factor, so I use a Benelli M4. Like I've heard that before, but it's like, how scared are you if somebody's shooting 5 rounds, 6 rounds at you per second? You know what I mean? Like you can rack, not per second, but you can rack a lever action pretty quickly. And if you're putting, 4570, 357, 44 Magnum, holes in or around them, they're going to obviously react in the way that you hope they would.
Right. And I think a lot of times people get so caught up in this, maybe this Hollywood type of vibe in regards to self-defense or just firearms in general. Right. And at the end of the day, even if you have a 22, I mean, I wouldn't say that's the optimal for self-defense, but even if you have that, I know I would not want to get shot by a 22. It's going to hurt and it's going to ping pong all over you. And I think sometimes people just get caught up in so much of that nonsense that, it's got to be, you got to have a 50 cal in your pocket in order to be able to take out the bad guy. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true. Like there was a lot of people who were giving me a little shit on the Shield video that I made because they were saying, well, it just lacks the capacity and I'd rather have 15 rounds instead of 8. And yes, I get that. But how many people really honestly want to get shot by 8 rounds of 9mm? I mean, I think the
concept is, they might miss 8 times before they get them on the 9th one, but it seems like statistically that's unlikely. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, more is always better. Like I said, if I knew my wife was home alone and I knew 2 people were about to break in, I'd rather have my Mark 18 with a 30-round magazine, laying on the side of the bed. But the reality is, if all she had was a pump shotgun, as long as you know how to use it, you're going to be fine. You cut the dude in half when he walks in the bedroom door while on the phone with 911, and the other guy's probably going to go away. Hopefully.
That's a good point. So I'm looking at some of the side chats. I'm sorry, guys, I haven't been really looking at here. So if you have any questions, just ask away. I'll do my best to, present them and stuff. But, it's always important that people, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. Anytime I can get, some real good, solid gun people on here, I will always try to get questions out to the public because, like I said, there's not many.
You mind if I pause this real quick? I got to grab another beer.
No, bro, go for it.
All right.
So one of the things that I definitely want to say is, when you have people like Honest Outlaw on, and again, I'm not trying to blow this guy up. He's already blown up as it is, but, I consider him a very good resource to use. So if you have those questions, please feel free to ask. I think it's always a good thing to do that. So let's see. Somebody mentioned before, let's not tell 1776 that CZ made a steel P01. I already know that. Come on, guys. Don't even test my CZ knowledge, damn it. Speaking of CZs, I got that P07. That's the one I didn't shoot today. That one's still hanging up in the safe. But did a lot of shooting. Great time, as always. Ran through way too much ammo, especially now. How many of you guys are having ammo issues? I'm sure many of you. And it's kind of sucky because you got to really, determine what you're going to shoot and how much you want to shoot. Let's see what else we got.
I mean, everybody can hear us anyway. We're still live.
Yeah. Let's see. Bagger Bro is asking the best aftermarket trigger for a 43X if I carry it. So, I'll be honest with you, I like the Apex triggers. You guys know that. I don't really think you need to change much. I shot the Glock 48 today, and the trigger's good. It's a good trigger. It's not great, obviously. And even the 19X had the stock trigger, and that was a good trigger too. But the biggest problem that I have with those triggers are the safeties in the trigger. The trigger safeties just stick out too much. I just wish they would, reduce that a little bit. But I would go with an Apex, if you're going to do an aftermarket trigger.
I like Johnny Glock, and I like Tactical Pontoon, and I like Apex, and I like Agency Arms. All four of those I would trust with my life.
Yeah, I've never used any of those triggers except for Apex. I had an Overwatch Precision once. That was pretty decent, but I've never used any of those other triggers.
Tactical Pontoon makes a really killer trigger. I have one of those in my Glock 34, and I would say that he makes good enough triggers to where they shoot really well, but not enough to where you're going to have reliability issues. I mean, that's obviously, there's a difference between a carry trigger and a competition trigger. And if you run competition triggers in your guns, sometimes you'll have light primer strikes, things like that.
Right. And that's the interesting too. Like, one of the things that I think is kind of weird about like a SIG, for example, is the out of box trigger on the SIGs, especially the new X models, like the X compact trigger, the X carry trigger. Those triggers are extremely, extremely short. There's not a lot of take up. You hit a nice solid defined wall, and then it's a nice decent trigger break. And I always wondered if, a lot of people talk about this idea that if you have a carry gun, you don't want to modify the trigger because of lawsuits and all that other stuff. But then when you look at a gun like a SIG and that trigger is so damn short, or a 1911 or whatever.
1911 has been around 100 years.
I wonder if there's really any weight to that. I'm sure a good lawyer would probably bring it up in court. But sometimes I wonder even if something like that is a little bit overkill, so to speak.
I think it's personal preference. I hear that argument all the time about wanting to keep everything stock. I keep everything in my gun that needs to be stock for reliability purposes. But I don't consider what a lawyer is going to say, honestly. A lawyer can bring up anything from your past to whatever it's going to be, and if you try to Google cases where people have lost due to trigger, trigger modifications, I mean, if you find any, it's pretty low. You know what I mean? Like, I would just use whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, even for like the shields and anything Smith & Wesson, if they would just do away with the hinge trigger, maybe you wouldn't have to change it out. But, I still it's something about hinges on triggers that just don't do it for me.
I hate it too. All my M&Ps have Apex triggers in them.
Yep, it just doesn't work for me. But some people say, no, it's great, but that's it.
M&P's a good gun though. I mean, it's one of those forgotten guns. Like, it almost made it on my underrated guns list just because everybody's talking about all the new stuff, or you're talking about Glock, or now you're talking about the 320, and the M&P is arguably superior to most of those. You know what I mean? And it's so cheap. I mean, at least around here, you'll find still M&Ps for, $300, $400. M&P 2.0s for $400. Like that's fucking bananas to me that you can get a gun that good. Like the M&P 2.0, I would argue is in the top 3 best polymer guns.
Wow.
Like, if I was going to pick three polymer guns, the M&P 2.0 would be in there for sure.
Yeah,
The
I think you're right on a lot of that, because it's almost like the M&P is so good that it's boring. Like
It is boring.
there's really nothing about it that is like, wow, look at that. But it is reliable and it works well. The only thing that people have mentioned to me about it on a lot of those M&Ps, even the 2.0s, is a lot of them get a lot of rust on the slide by the sights. I've never experienced that, but I've heard, people have communicated saying, yeah, mine's rusting out. Do you have any issues with yours? Could it be that you're just sweating like a pig? And
I was going to say, maybe your belly's hanging over it.
yeah, you're not cleaning it up enough. It could be it. And I'm not trying to bash anybody, but I've never seen one honest.
That's why appendix holsters, stuff like that, have sweat guards.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But you can always get that, you can always you could fix that yourself, really. But if you didn't want to, you could always get it coated for like $50.
All right. Let me see. I'm looking. I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking through some of these comments. This actually could pertain to you as well. This person, New York Herper and Gear, he's asking, as a fellow New Yorker, are you finding any pistol ammo in the local stores? No. Specifically the private stores. Like, I will say I've gotten lucky with my local guy, but he begrudgingly sells it to me. Like, I'll say, hey man, you got any 9mm? Like, we're doing a drug transaction. And he's like, well, I go, come on, I need some 9, babe. I need some 9, and then he hooks me up all the time,
Hey, extra.
But yeah, I'll pay you extra, BJ in the corner. Just kidding. But it's very difficult. There's no ammo here. It's very rare. And then when it comes in, it's gone just like that. I mean, what are you seeing over in your neck of the woods?
It's available sometimes, and you can get 100 rounds here, 50 rounds there. They always have limits on them. Some stores have them, some don't. I just bought 200 rounds from my FFL, old Terry Johnson, and it's hard to get. I have a bunch saved up, thank God, or I'd be at the store every day trying to buy 50 rounds a day. Hopefully, I hear from my sources that it should be all cleared up in the next 6 to 8 months.
Okay, well, I'm going to hold you to that, man. I'm going to hold you to those words.
That can move back, but who knows? At least from what I've heard, they're starting to get things stocked back up and starting to get production ramped up again. So
yeah.
That's the real problem, is only like 4 companies make primers.
Yeah. So Kathleen's asking here, how many yards do you shoot when starting and progress to at the range? So it's interesting. Today I was going real short at the beginning, especially with the red dot, just to see where the hell it was going. So for me, I don't care. Like, I'm not embarrassed to say I'll start 5 yards and work my way out from there to about 15, 20 yards. And, for me, some people may say that that's not effective and all this other crap, but I'm not shooting for a distance. I'll be honest with you. I'm not. Now, that could be a problem if I have to shoot 300 yards across the mall, but I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm be honest with you, I'm not. If I'm in that position,
some dude shooting at a mall, grab your kid and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hiding and taking a position and just waiting, and people say, well, that's not the right thing. Well, I'm not a hero, guys, and usually heroes die. So, I had a job once where I had to put myself in those positions. I'm not doing that again. And the way I look at it is, to me, that's a good enough start and it's a good enough finish to be effective at what I need to do.
Yeah. Every situation is different, if I feel like the only person there who can make a difference, there's no police, that kind of thing, kids are getting shot, well then, yeah, I'm going to be running that 250 yards where I'd shoot 50 at least. You know what I mean? Like, I know what I can hit. I know at what distances I can hit at. I shoot them all the time. I can tell you that if we were talking, I could pull my carry gun out and I could hit an IPSC target at 100 yards every single time. But under stress, when somebody's shooting at me, knock that down to 25 yards, most likely. You know what I mean? When you're ramped and you're freaking out and people are, getting fucking, ventilated right next to you.
And that makes great sense, because once that adrenaline starts running, it's everything, like you said before, initially, everything goes out the window, and
sure.
And I know, like, we could sit here and talk about it being this and that, but until you're put in that position, how do you really know what you're going to do? How do you know how you're going to function? Are you going to freeze up? Or are you going to stiffen up?
Right.
A lot of that stuff is, I think it's based on situation when you're in that situation, until then.
Marksmanship is lower on the totem pole in a situation like that than a lot of things, You're on a good physical fitness. You're going to be able to move. You're going to be able to shoot from cover. Good tactics. If you can, take them from behind. if you can, and there's somebody with you, 2-on-1 them if you have to, hammer and anvil type shit. Just,
Yep.
there's a lot of different things than just being able to shoot a bullseye at 25 yards, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I mean, any life or death engagement I've ever been in was up close, personal, and it was usually physical first. You know what I mean? So,
well, it's
after that,
funny
you're
you
rolling
say
around the
that,
ground.
because
Doesn't
just
really
the other
matter.
day locally by me here, at the local supermarket, which is 10 minutes down the road from me here, we had a shooting. We actually had an actual shooting in a parking lot where on Christmas Eve, right in the morning of Christmas Eve, some guy opened fire on another guy in a truck, and then he took off, and then I guess eventually turned himself in. But that was not a distance. That was close range. It was basically, I'd say maybe 5 feet,
Right.
and honestly, that's probably what you're going to look at. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I think a lot of people get caught up in this really fabricated sense of, you're going to be a hero. And I don't know, man. I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, yeah, if you
Somebody
had it.
needs to be a hero sometimes, so I
Mhm,
wouldn't lose hope. It's good to train for it, I mean, we're talking kind of dismal about this, but I mean, if you have the if you have the skills necessary to fix the problem, then by all means
mhm.
use them if you want. But I
Right.
would just be very careful. When I talk about like shooting, or when I think about shooting distance in a self-defense situation, I'm more worried about somebody running in my field of fire. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like you have to be really careful some kid doesn't run through and or anything like that.
mhm.
Like I said, it's all situational.
That's a good point. So Oriel Mojica asks, "Hi guys, does the deflection of the polymer frame affect precision versus aluminum frame in shooting?" I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I'm not
The
sure what that
deflection
is either.
point. It could be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've shot aluminum. I've shot polymer. I'm sure you have as well.
Mm.
I obviously think the weight makes it a easier gun to shoot, thus maybe giving you better accuracy overall.
Well,
So
there's something to sway. You know what I mean? Like a heavier gun is always going to be a little bit more accurate, in my opinion, because it seems like it's easier to steady.
mhm,
There's a little bit to polymer flex. I mean, if that's what you're talking about, polymer guns have a moderate flex to them that can allow some recoil reduction. But I've heard that theory a bunch. I'm not real sure though how that affects accuracy. You know what I mean? I don't think it really does. I mean, at least not to the normal person. I think
mhm,
most guns are more accurate than most people, and I think it's really the interface with you and the gun that matters more. Do you have the best sights? Do you have the best trigger for you, kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like trigger manipulation is the gold standard of accuracy. If you can run a trigger well, you can shoot fucking anything. Like
mhm.
like for real. Like that's why I do a lot of double action practice, especially with my CZ Shadow. Now I do it with a 686 because it's got a worse trigger. I just really focus on bringing that trigger to the rear without moving that gun at all. You know,
Mhm.
and Rob Latham's got a great video on trigger manipulation about people really slow or on the pad of your finger, crook of your finger, stuff like that. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I actually practice a lot just pulling the trigger to the rear as fast as I can without moving the sights because that's how I'm going to be shooting in real life.
Mhm.
So I don't fuck around with the whole real slow stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's been my biggest problem, is just getting really good at control of the trigger. A lot of my shots are usually low and to the left, which I believe is my trigger.
You
Or
can
at
fix
least
a lot of that with your grip too.
mm,
Grip can overcompensate trigger issues sometimes. Tighten up that left hand a great
mm,
deal, and it should fix some of that for you.
okay. All right. And let's
Ride a little bit higher, and maybe even drive with your thumb.
right. Yep. And that was one thing I was noticing even with the SIG, and I had that gas pedal on there, and
Yep.
even that can throw you off a little bit until you really
And
learn how to position that thumb on there. And then once I got it, I started seeing things moving up, getting a little bit more centered. So, look, to me, for me, like I said, average guy, it's not that it's like a science, I guess. You got to look at everything that you're doing. A lot of it is going to be repetition, like you said. The biggest problem is getting caught up in shooting so many different firearms and just trying to be consistent with them.
that's a unique problem we both have. I
Mhm,
was talking to that with my instructor, that Parker dude, last week. I was like, I use a certain battery of arms because it works on every gun. Like a lot of
mhm,
times, if I'm running the slide release, I'll come up and use my non-dominant hand to run it. And he's like, well, "Why do you do that?" And I was like, "Because sometimes I have to shoot a Beretta, sometimes I have to shoot a 1911, sometimes
mhm.
that bitch is black. And sometimes the Taurus G3. The next day it's an Atlas Athena. I have to make sure to kind of develop a battery of arms that works for everything, so I'm not fumble fucking stuff all the time."
That's a good point. That's a good point. So the other thing I wanted to bring up to you is I actually was finally able to get, well, I shouldn't say finally able to get it, but I finally saved enough money to be able to replace one of my old Steyrs. I sold all my Steyrs a while ago, and I
Did
just,
you really?
yeah, I did.
Like
You know,
the Steyr guy. You're like the ambassador for them for the
you
United
know,
States.
I want to throw one name out there that is much, much more knowledgeable than me on Steyrs, and that's TN Steyr. He is
Right.
the Steyr guy.
So I spent an hour and a half on the phone with that dude trying to fix my AUG clone, right?
No, I
Like
did
that,
not
that
know that.
guy's the shit. I called him up and I was like, "Help me, please."
Yeah.
I had a mag stuck in my a Microtech Steyr clone for God
Uh,
knows how long, and we finally got it out. I beat it with a mallet forever.
Yeah, I mean he is so knowledgeable with anything Steyr. Like that's his thing, you know, where it's like, you know, I get a lot of different firearms and I shoot them all. You do the same. He is primarily Steyr only. And when I have questions, they go to him, you know, and you know, I did some videos obviously well before he you know came out with his stuff and everything. And I'm telling you, you know, when I had the Steyrs, they were great guns. You know, but I wanted to do some other things. And I always said, once I sell them off, I'm absolutely going to replace them with the A2s when they come out. So I just wound up picking a C9 A2. And it's the first time I never had a C9 A1. I only had the S, the L, and the M. And I got to hold it a little bit. I have to wait for it to get out of jail for the next, you know, year. But man, let me tell you something. You might want to look into getting one of those because it is like the perfect carry gun. I'm going to say it right now. I haven't shot it. Haven't even gotten it home, but the grip is smaller than the L. So it's about a Glock 19 grip. It's got a 3.8-inch slide. And it just is amazing. It's just felt amazing in the hand, and I can't wait to shoot that damn gun. So I would highly recommend getting one if you can.
I like the Steyrs. I like them a lot, but it's hard to be a fan because they're never available. They're hard to find parts for. They're hard to find mags for. I mean, if you don't like the triangular sights, good luck trying to find something else. You can find stuff. You have to be a damn near an expert to find them.
Yep.
And it's difficult. And on top of that, the Steyr makes a phenomenal gun, but they haven't had any marketing since Die Hard in 1982. Nobody, they're still in fucking business. So it's hard for me, man. That's like I said, you selling Steyrs, you might put them out of business.
You know what's crazy though is that even with Steyr, the way they do things, like it doesn't even make sense. And like when I review this gun, I'm bringing it up because I don't even care. But it's like they make no sense. So they have the Steyr intern who does all these comments and all these snarky little things, trying to be like HK Jr. You know?
Do they really?
Oh yeah. Yep. So I'm sitting here saying to myself, so you have a guy who makes these like, you know, funny memes and all that other shit, but at the same time, you do zero marketing. You don't tell people that these guns are being released. Like I emailed them and said, listen, is there any availability whatsoever? Can you send me something so that I can at least review it and then send it back to you? Their answer was no. They were like, no, we don't have anything. We have nothing in here in the US. So I'm like, mind boggling, just totally mind boggling.
I mean, you look at all of the guns in the past like 10, 15 years. And I mean, I've shot a few of those Steyr pistols and I really liked them, but I think I'm one of the only people that even knows about them besides you and a few other people. I mean, you just don't see them mentioned anywhere. They have super low recoil. They have a great trigger. They're real fucking fast, which I like a lot. If I could get the A2 in a Glock 34 size, I mean, that would be a phenomenal gun. I don't know how big they get. I mean, what's the barrel?
They have the L, which I think is a 4.5-inch slide.
I'd like a 5.5 or a 5 for sure if they get.
Yeah, they definitely don't have that.
I know they won't.
Yeah, it's a shame. Now, the reason why I sold those Steyrs, like I said, wasn't because they were bad guns or anything, but I knew the A2s were coming out. I was able to test out that L9 A2 when it came out. And I said, as soon as these come out on market, I'm picking them up. And then guess what? Nothing ever came out. You know, you saw like a sporadic, oh my God, there's an L9A2, and it was gone. And now when you look at them, the prices are just overdone. So you're looking at over $600, sometimes $700, and it's a great gun, not worth $700. I'm sorry, it's not.
A lot of guns are like that. They get a lot of hype. Desert Tech MDR comes to mind, or the Lago Arms Alien. And they take pre-orders for these guns, and then you've got 5,000 people who pre-order them, and they always message me, why didn't you pre-order this gun, if you really want it? It's because I mean, if it ever fucking comes out, maybe I would get it then. But I mean, the Lago Arms was supposed to be out something like 9 months ago now, and I know COVID happened, but the Desert
Yeah.
Tech MDR took 3 years to come out. That AA12 clone, how long did that take to come out? The answer is never.
Right.
You know, they took all the pre-orders and just screwed people.
Yeah.
And like, you just got to really. Well, I'm not saying Steyr would do that, but you know, when I see the A2, I don't believe that it's a real gun until I see it in my local Shields. You know
Well,
what I mean?
yeah, well, that's true because like I was watching them and I didn't even know they released the C9s. I didn't even know they released the M9s. So finally I saw them. I'm like, holy shit, these have been released. So I touched base with them. They say, oh, we don't have any. So you're going to have to look at your locals. I'm like, but there's none. I mean, there's none available.
Right, yeah.
And they're all $200 over MSRP. Why would I waste my money doing that?
Yeah.
And then when I saw the C9 on Gunbroker, I was like, all right, I had a set price. I was not going to pay $600 or more. So I actually got under 600, paid it. They shipped it. I just took a look at it the other day, and it's, if you like the Steyrs, the best way to equate this is the trigger has not improved and it didn't really need any improvement. Because like you said, it's just a phenomenal.
The grip, right? The
grip is the ergonomics and just the overall like package that they put together on these guns. It is just well above what it used to be. So if they ever got a foothold or if they ever got their shit together in regards to marketing it correctly, this gun would dominate in the Polymer market because it has everything you want. And yeah, the reset isn't so great. Oh, well, I mean, really, you were going to worry about reset on a goddamn gun? I mean, come on.
I do.
I know this guy doesn't.
But I shoot quickly though, and ride and reset is the way to do it, And if you want to shoot fast, shorter distance is always the quickest. So it wouldn't bother me if there was a competition trigger option.
Yeah,
but it would bother me if there wasn't.
It's just they just don't have a good solid reset, and the only thing I can say about it that's actually good is that the trigger resets exactly at the same pull distance on the initial pull, so it's not a shorter reset.
The thing about that is you can get used to resets too. People talk about an audible or tactile reset, and that matters a lot if you shoot a lot of different guns. But if that's the only gun you shoot all the time, you can get used to that regardless of how tactile it is. And regardless of how long or short it is. But I shoot so many different guns, and I have an Atlas Hyperion. You're not going to beat that for reset, So it's downhill from there. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it's funny.
The reset on that trigger is so little, I can't even show it on my finger. You know what I mean?
That's crazy. Yeah, that would be one that's like, you just, how do you not want to shoot that fast?
It makes me feel bad posting that on Instagram because people get so upset.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's a $4,000 gun. How could you ever own that? And it's like, well, I mean, make my living shooting guns, so I just wanted to see what like the fucking top of the mountain is,
Sure.
And people get so upset when you show the top every once in a while. I say that because I have another Atlas that I've been. That's my text message, Mr. T. But I have another Atlas coming soon that I had a lot of design input on that I'm very excited to show you guys sometime. I haven't talked about that yet, but
man, that's pretty awesome.
Imagine if somebody that makes the best guns in the world came to you and asked you what you'd make if there was no price.
It's funny you're saying that. I'm still waiting for that. And so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be waiting a long time.
Well, maybe someday. Maybe talk to Steyr and be like, hey, listen, could you just get the gun here and then we'll worry about it?
Yeah, right. Shit, I'd be happy just to get my Caracal back. I still have not gotten that damn gun back.
That dumpster fire of a company. I told you to watch out for that.
Listen, I talk to the guy probably every month, and it's always something else. So last time I spoke to him, I think we were 12 weeks out to actually getting the gun back. They had to go and just change everything. They changed their distributors, they changed their factory and all this other stuff. And I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know. I'm still hopeful, maybe stupid, but definitely stupid, that the gun will actually return and it'll actually function the way it should have in the first place.
In 2070, it will. Yeah.
I know. I'll be in a nursing home somewhere by the time I get that gun back, but at least it'll be back. It'll work.
So they still haven't sent you the original one back from that?
No, but he did say that the actual gun was sitting on his desk with all the new parts, and they just had to get it through a battery of testing before they could send it back to me.
Made in some dude's garage? Is that where they're made?
Yeah, pretty much. Listen. Bill Gates started in a garage too, so maybe that's what we're looking at here.
Well, companies like Guncrafter made in like a little shack, but he makes phenomenal guns. So.
Yeah, it's a shame because I like the gun, man. It's super low. I mean, it just, whatever reason, it just didn't work. So it is what it is.
That sucks. Like I was, the reason why the AA12 burns me so much is that's like my number one. I mean, other than the one I just bought, I just picked up a Colt single action, an actual real one, not a copy. That's like my number one. If I could have any gun, my second is the AA12, and they made that semi-automatic AA12 clone that I wanted so badly, and obviously it doesn't work. I just watched a Larry Vickers video on the new CQB version or something this morning, and makes me want one again. But just like your Caracal, I want an AA12 that works and is civilian legal.
I mean, it just could be a good gun, but it's just whatever reason. I think it's, again, a foreign company trying to make its mark in the U.S., and the market just never took to it.
But again, Canik worked. I mean, Canik took this like a wildfire like 10 years ago. I mean, young people might not know, but Canik didn't even fucking exist, 10 years before that. I mean, it did, but you get what I mean. And they're Turkish guns too, so it's a little strange, but they caught on like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I had a Canik, the Elite I had, it gave me some problems, so eventually that went away. But but I think also though a lot of the Canik internals are a lot of Walther internals, and that may start some people to get mad and stuff. But when you're already using
a copy of the P99, pretty much.
Exactly, and when you're using a proven platform on your own firearms, I mean, it is a recipe for success, whether you would believe it or not.
So, I mean, ask Springfield. I mean, I love the whole Springfield thing because like people think that that's the company that made like the 1903 or something like that. Yeah. That is not Springfield. They bought that name and they exported a whole bunch of like South Korean guns and stamped XD on them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was it? The HS 2000, I think it was, or whatever it was.
Right, I think it is. Yep. Yeah, but hey, it's history, right?
Yeah, right. If you live in Croatia, you love it.
Eventually, it'll just be that. Well, that's like they make a PPQ. I mean, a VP9.
The VP9 has never been it for me. I've owned too many of them to really talk about, but I don't know. Like everybody made it such a big deal, but now when you look at the VP9 versus some of the other guns that are out there, it's just I don't know. It just never really did it for me.
H&K is a hard pill for me to swallow, man. I mean, they fucking hate their customers, it seems like. I saw an HK SP5K, which is a gun I wanted to get for the channel. I saw it for sale for $7,800 on Gunbroker the other day. That is a gun designed in like the 1960s with no hold open. Like, it's difficult for me,
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like, when you think about HK, that is one manufacturer that doesn't seem to get into the modern era. And you're right, they drive a lot of hatred towards people when they get bad.
Right. But if you can afford it, I mean, they're good guns, don't get me wrong, but I mean, MP5 is the greatest submachine gun in my opinion that probably has ever been made. I mean, it's my favorite to shoot at machine guns shoots, but semi-auto, hard to imagine paying that much money for one.
Definitely.
Their pistols are cool, the Mark 23, Mark 24, Mark 25, or what is it? Mark 23, and then the Mark 24 is the USP compact or something like that. Is that right?
I mean, I like the two, what the fuck is it? The God, what is it? The P2000. I love that gun.
Yeah,
that was one of the first guns I ever owned. Oh, it's like a USP, just a little bit more modern than a USP. But I love that gun, and I owned it. It was a great firearm. It was one of the first guns I ever bought, and it just was just a solid gun. Not very pretty to look at, not very ergonomic in the hand, but it just was a good shooting firearm. It'd just be nice if they kind of refresh things a little bit, but who am I, right?
Well, it's just hard, man, because they're cool stuff you can't even get a hold of. I spent like $3,000 on a G36 from Tommy Built that doesn't even work. It would have been nice to just get. I mean, a G36 been around a long time. I mean, I imagine in Germany they're not $3,000. They're probably like a rack grade AR, I would guess. You know what I mean? And like the UMP 45. I'd love to have one of those too, but they just don't. They have an issue with selling to civilians for whatever reason, and it's probably because they get a ton of military contracts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, HK is a fucking huge company, especially in Europe. They supply most. I think most of the elite militaries in the world are running some sort of H&K, and that's obviously for good reason. Very durable, very reliable. I mean, down to the very minute details. I mean, I respect them as a company, but it's hard as a civilian to love their company because the stuff we get in the United States. I mean, is VP9 better than PPQ? Not really. Is a P30 better than a PPQ? Not really. You know what I mean? Is a Mark
Right.
23 better than a 1911? I mean, maybe. You know, there's just a lot of. I mean, you can get the FN 45 for cheaper than the Mark 23, and it probably runs better, and it's probably an easier gun to use. It's
Sure.
just the trickle down stuff we get. I mean, what is the 416 clone? The MR 556 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's a great gun, piston driven AR, but you can get a piston driven AR for like $600 if you look at a
Right.
file. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, you could until 2 months ago or 3 months
Right.
ago.
Well, you're paying for those two letters, the H and the K, you know, and that's sometimes how it plays out.
Right, right. But I do that. I mean, I paid a shitload for a Colt single action. It's always a matter of what you like. You know, I mean, a
That's
Colt single action is exactly the pinnacle of fucking weapons technology these days, but probably one of the most expensive guns I own now. So
I know. Go figure, right? So let me ask you, do you still have the Archon, or is that gone?
I actually sold that a month after I did the review, and it's one of the guns that's going to be in a top 5 I'm going to do here pretty soon called the Guns I Regret Selling, because I missed that thing. There's a couple of companies doing red dot mounts for those things now, and I'm like, ooh.
Really?
But I want the Type A. I want the Archon Type A. I want the new Strike A or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did that video, man, and I said it's by far, and somebody like said, well, the Alien is actually the best. I'm like, nobody even has it.
The Alien definitely is better. Don't get me wrong, but it's also like $5,000.
Right. So I mean, the Archon is phenomenal. It's a great gun.
No, I mean, have you shot the Alien?
No, I haven't even seen one. I don't. You know, I've seen it. I've seen it in pictures.
When I shot that, I was very upset I couldn't buy it right now. It has so little recoil, and it's really, really accurate. I mean, I was hitting IPSC targets with it at SHOT Show at 100 yards. I have it on film, you know, and it's got I was worried about the trigger, because you can make the fastest gun in the world, lowest recoil gun in the world, but if it's not a quicker trigger than a 2011, nobody gives a shit, because you can control recoil, you can't fix the trigger. You know what I mean? So, like, I was thinking if they're trying to run production or limited or especially open guns, I was like, you gotta have a really good trigger, and they certainly do. I mean, it's the best trigger I've ever felt besides like a custom CZ or a 2011 trigger.
Man, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see when people start doing videos on them and stuff. I mean, I will never get one in my hands. I just can't, do that. What's that?
20 years from now, don't hold back. I mean, there'll be feedback for a while.
I'll probably have to sell everything that I own to get one of those, but I don't know. It would be nice to have one. That would be something, like I always say, I just can't ever see spending that kind of money on a firearm. Right. But that to me would be one, because of the fact that it is just the most unique, most strange firearm that's out there right now.
Just time they have a gun like that with like a lot of innovation, I think you should wait to the second generation, third generation. You don't want to be like a guinea pig, because those guns are not mass produced currently. They're going to have problems with those every time. Gen 3 Glocks, Gen 4 Glocks, Gen 5. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to work out that red dot mount issue they had a while back. And, like I said, you don't want to be the first person getting beta tested on for $5,000. You want to wait till things are like $1,500. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then it's also the question of the longevity of the company. I mean, are they going to be around long enough to be able to push out a second generation, or is it kind of a one and done deal where they're out there and now we're out? We're not doing anything.
The good news is technology is always technology. If they're not good enough to produce that gun, somebody else will someday. Like people were upset when the Hudson H9 went out of business, but the reality is, look, all of a sudden Daniel Defense might make the Hudson H9, and they're probably going to make it better because they have better manufacturing capability. And on it goes. Somebody's going to take those, like every good attribute in any firearm. Like the Glock didn't come up with the Browning tilted barrel design. You know what I mean? Like they just took it, and like the Walter P38, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And but the point is someday that Log of Arms Alien will create an even better beast of a gun. I just hope I'm still alive to see the damn thing. Right.
And, it's amazing, like I said, when you start seeing people pushing the innovation factor into some of these things, and like you said, a lot of the guns are all based on something from the past. The Alien is just something so new that it's hard to believe that it's real.
Yeah, that hammer coming down, and then they have the gas system from the Squeeze Cocker HK, I think. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of different things that they stole from different guns, but they put them in a package that is different than anything else. So that's kind of what goes on. That's kind of what we consider innovation these days. Mm-hmm. A different combination of the same shit, but it does run better for sure than any other. I mean, I would argue that it's got as good of a trigger as a 2011, and it obviously has a way better bore axis. So it has. It's hard to say if it's got more or less recoil. I'd have to shoot them side by side because a lot of 2011s. I mean, you look at that bore axis and you think it's going to be a lot of recoil, but if you shoot something like a Hyperion or a Hayes Custom or something that somebody's put a lot of time and R&D in, I mean, you wouldn't believe how low recoil some of those guns have. It's really impressive. Like something like an Atlas Nemesis, even though it's shooting 40, it barely moves at all.
Right. Yeah, I know. And you know who's got one of those is Pop's Quest. He's got a couple of those Atlas.
I've seen his YouTube videos on them a few times because I've thought about it's so hard though, because those guns are, I mean, Atlas or Infinity or any gun like that. I mean, are they the best shooting guns in the world? Yeah, I think so, but fuck, they're so expensive.
Yeah.
They're so expensive. I mean, $4,000 for a handgun's out of this world. I mean, you can get a used car for that. You can buy a motorcycle for that. It's no matter what you're into.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You got to get a motorcycle to shoot Atlas off of.
So we've crossed the 1 hour threshold. So we're going to be shutting down.
I got about 5 minutes left, I think, before dinner here. So if you any questions or anything, I told everybody to answer questions, so I feel kind of bad.
No, I mean, you know, they've been having side conversations. I've been looking here and there. You know, I guess we'll give you like 5 more minutes and then we'll cut it out. If you have anything you want to say, like anything coming up, anything that you're working on. I know the Gundies for you is coming up. I want
to be Jerry, but I know I won't.
Well, why wouldn't you win? That's the question. I mean, are you not a good gun reviewer? Yes. Are you not a good shooter? Yes, you are.
Well, I would argue though that Jerry deserves every award that will ever even come close to him. Like I said, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Jerry Michalek's one of my personal idols. Like I modeled my shooting after him with lots of his shooting videos and stuff like that. So even to meet him last year at the Gundies was probably one of the coolest things that ever happened to me. He's a phenomenal shooter, and he's really a pioneer. I mean, a lot of the competitive shooting events and techniques and all that stuff. I mean, he was a big part of creating that. Same with like Ken Hackathorn and Clint Smith and lots of other people.
So Jesse Bell, this is probably a question that you can answer. I certainly cannot. He's saying that he recently bought an STI Spartan. He needs to replace sights. What are the specs for the front sight? Would you happen to know that?
I wouldn't, but you can call Dawson Precision and they will tell you, and they will send you whatever sight you need. I actually had an STI Spartan. That's a really good gun. Years ago. I know I had the Trojan. I'm not sure what the difference is.
All right, Jesse. So that's your answer. Call Dawson Precision.
Dawson has phenomenal customer service. I mean, you can ask him about shit you're not even going to buy.
Yeah. And I think that might be it. So what else? Anything else going on? Like, what are you working on? What's the next big project for you?
Tomorrow I'm going to be shooting a video on the Triple Threat, but I don't know when that's coming out. That's a fucking cool gun. I don't know if you ever shot one of those, but
nope.
Then I got the AGS or the AXG or whatever the new SIG is, the aluminum frame. And then I have some other guns coming out as well. I have the 1,000-round review of the Springfield Hellcat.
Oh, wow.
It's a cool gun.
Yeah. But it's not going to replace your daily carry.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I have the Glock 43, the Glock 43X, and that grip fits me so well that I'm a little bit biased toward it over something like a 365 or a Hellcat. But get smaller hands. I mean, it's perfect gun for somebody that fits them well. I mean, it's a reliable gun. I only had one malfunction out of 1,000 rounds, I think. So it's a real good gun. I mean, if you like Springfield.
For what it is, right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's kind of weird, right? Because, I mean, the other option, SIG, really, or the aftermarket Shield Arms mags for the Glock 43, which in my personal experience, I had 2 of them that were extremely reliable, but the 2 recent ones I've bought, thank God I haven't done a video yet because those 2 have had some issues. So if you want a high capacity, real small gun, and I mean, really only 2 options that I see.
Yep. And honestly, I think the SIG kind of beats it anyway, just because the fact if you want a longer slide, you have the XL.
Right. So I obviously take the XL. I shot that one much better. Yeah.
Sure.
What do you think? What do you think of the Hellcat? You like that gun?
You know, I can't seem to find it anywhere here. You know, I've reached out to Springfield a couple of times, and they've said they don't have any with 10-round magazines.
You want one? I'll mind one. Review.
I mean, you know, I don't know if I want one because it's not like for me. I'm perfectly happy with my Shield. I love the Shield. Threw some mag guts in there. I'm carrying 10, and then also 8 plus 1. I feel pretty good with that, you know. And then I have the Glock 48, and I love that gun. I mean, it's just a nice it's actually replaced my Glock 19, which for me makes sense because I can only carry 10 rounds.
48. The 48's a killer gun too.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love the 48.
I'm doing a little John, you know the John Wick gun from John Wick 2, the Terran Tactical. I'm doing a Glock 48 clone of that, like a mini John Wick gun. Excited about.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah. I mean, I like it. I shot it today. It shot great. I mean, it's just a great shooting gun. Yes, the capacity, but you guys have the ability to get those 15-round mags now. So for me, I don't. I can only go with 10. So I said,
you can only go with 10. Why even fuck around? I mean, I would argue that a reliable gun with 10 rounds is way better than an unreliable one with 50 rounds. You know,
right.
If you have a 10-round working gun, that's going to get you through 99% of stuff you'll ever run into. Right. And 10 rounds, 9mm put in the right place solve a lot of problems.
Right. And the interesting part is, like, I had a 48 a while ago with the silver slide, sold it. And then I got the one with the black slide. So it's a newer release. And honestly, I feel like this version of it, the way they've built it up a little bit, it just seems like it's a better functioning firearm than the original one was. One of the biggest problems I had was the guy rod. The guide rod would always just fall out as soon as I pull the slide off. Now it seems like the guide rod fits the gun the way it should have. So I don't have any issues with it putting back on the frame, taking it off the frame. Every time I did it on the old one, that damn guide rod kept falling out. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, really?
If you want a real shit show, you should get one of those like tungsten guide rods for a Glock that are not captured. And when you take it off, every time you forget about it, it hits you in the fucking face.
Oh my god, that'd be a bad day. That would be a bad day for me. But yeah,
the first time I ever cleaned a handgun was in 1911, and I flipped the bushing to the right, and I shot it through my ceiling of my parents' house when I was like 8 years old. So. I got to get out of here, so
all right, man.
I'll let you go, and we got to do this again sometime. I always forget.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate you joining us tonight, man. So you have a good night, and I'll close it down after you're gone here.
You too, man. Stay safe in New York over there. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Crazy. Good thing you got that M1A.
That's right.
M1A might be outdated, but it'll solve a lot of problems.
That's right. It definitely would, and it makes you scared. Okay. Take care, bud. All right. All right, everybody. So that's it. That's it for us today. I appreciate Honest Outlaw being on tonight. It's always good to hear from him. And, next time, if there is a next time, we can ask Mrs. Outlaw to be on. I'm not sure she'd want to be, but that's a possibility. So I appreciate everybody stopping in. Again, like I said, I don't do these often on my own, but that might be something that I'll do a little bit more. But I appreciate you guys joining me on Sunday night. I hope you all had a great Christmas. Hopefully you'll enjoy your New Year's Eve coming up soon, and we can start 2021 hopefully on a better foot, because obviously 2020 just kind of sucked. But other than that, video wise coming out, I'm going to do follow up on the Icarus Precision, the shooting experience I had with it. Keep in mind, just so you know, I'm doing my best to get that discount code. Once I have it, I will push it out as fast as I can. As far as I know, it's going to be a limited run in regards to the numbers that are going to be able to get that discount. So if you're interested in that X compact that's coming out soon. I'm hopefully going to get my hands on one of those very, very soon and be able to show that to you as well. And then, I've got a bunch of other guns that I shot today, so I'll be doing some things on that in the near future. So again, appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you next time. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. And we are out.